headlines of this hour on VTV News. The state president begins state visit to Laos. And later on, Prime Minister Phie attends the virtual summit on climate action. In our world news, U.S. toy industry takes a hit from latest tariff wave.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is currently 8 a.m. local time, and you're tuning in to 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Lidin Lei with the latest updates. Now, on the top news of today's hour, receiving the European Union ambassador to Vietnam, Nguyen Xuan Phuc, Party General Secretary Tolam highly appreciated the sentiments, role and contributions of the EU ambassador and the EU delegation to developing the Vietnam-EU relationship. He expressed his belief that with the efforts of both sides, the Vietnam-EU partnership will continue to be strengthened, made more substantive and elevated to a new height. The Party General Secretary emphasized that the EU is one of Vietnam's leading foreign policy partners and noted with satisfaction that bilateral ties have seen dynamic and comprehensive development over the 35 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations. Expressing his honor and sincere thanks to Party Chief Tolam for the meeting, Ambassador Nguyen Xuan Phuc congratulated Vietnam on its development achievements after 50 years of national reunification. He affirmed that Vietnam is a reliable and prioritized partner of the EU in the Asia-Pacific region and praised its rising role and position, particularly as it enters a new era. Receiving Philippine ambassador to Vietnam, Maynardo Los Banos Montealegre, Party General Secretary Tolam highly appreciated the ambassador's positive contributions to promoting bilateral relations, emphasizing that 2025 marks the 10th anniversary of establishing the strategic partnership between Vietnam and the Philippines. He also urged the ambassador to focus on promoting several areas of bilateral cooperation, including enhancing political diplomatic cooperation through facilitating high-level exchanges and contacts, boosting economic connectivity for the goal of $10 billion in bilateral trade, strengthening collaboration in security, defense, and maritime and oceanic matters, and promoting cooperation in other fields such as culture, sports, tourism, education and training, climate change adaptation, and disaster mitigation. The General Secretary affirmed that Vietnam actively supports the Philippines in successfully assuming the role of ASEAN Chair 2026. In response, the ambassador affirmed that he will coordinate with Vietnamese agencies to organize numerous practical activities to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the strategic partnership and the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations in 2026, as well as make efforts to promote the strategic partnership between the two countries and develop it more deeply, substantially, and effectively in all fields. State President Nguyen Xuan Phuc and a high-level Vietnamese delegation arrived in Vientiane on Thursday to begin a state visit to Laos. Thong Loun Sisalith, General Secretary of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party Central Committee and President of Laos, hosted a welcome ceremony and held talks with State President Nguyen Xuan Phuc.
This is State President Nguyen Xuan Phuc's first state visit to Laos in his current capacity. The visit highlights the two countries' great friendship and comprehensive relations. The two leaders agreed to further enhance cooperation in all fields during the talks. They discuss and reach a consensus on orientations to foster future bilateral relations, including bolstering regular high-level and people-to-people exchanges, implementing key bilateral agreements, and promoting theoretical cooperation and experience sharing in the streamlining process between the two parties. The two sides pledged to strengthen economic, cultural, scientific, and technological cooperation, aiming to boost bilateral trade to $5 billion. The leaders also agreed to coordinate closely on regional and international issues, work together closely in Mekong River resource management, and build stronger trilateral ties with Cambodia. They agreed to strengthen cooperation in science and technology, healthcare, education and training, and culture, share experience in high-level official training, collaborate on recruitment and training quality, and foster cooperation in innovation, digital economy, and e-commerce. The two leaders witnessed the signing of cooperation agreements between the ministries, sectors, and localities of both countries.
State President Nguyen Xuan Phuc and General Secretary of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party Central Committee and President of Laos Thongloun Sisoulith on Thursday attended the wrist-tying ceremony for good luck on the occasion of the Lao Bun Pi Mei Festival. The Lao General Secretary and President shared that the State President visit created a new impetus, contributing significantly to fostering and bringing great friendship, special solidarity, and comprehensive cooperation between Vietnam and Laos to a deeper, more substantial, and effective level. In his response, State President Nguyen Xuan Phuc thanked the Lao leaders and people for their warm welcome. He affirmed that he would do his best to foster relations between the two countries. State President Nguyen Xuan Phuk's state visit holds great significance. It is expected to consolidate trust further, enhance political confidence, and strengthen the Vietnam-Laos bond. Prime Minister Phie on Wednesday attended a virtual summit on climate action at the invitation of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva as leader of a country at the forefront of implementing the Just Energy Transition Partnership, JETP. More to follow.
The UN Deputy Secretary General, who coordinated the summit, praised Vietnam as a leader in green development and climate action and urged it to share its experience globally. Reaffirming points from COP26, Prime Minister Phie stressed the need for a united, inclusive and people-centered approach, highlighting the importance of fairness, cooperation and unlocking resources for climate response and sustainable development.
Vietnam is accelerating climate action with a coordinated strategic approach, enhancing its legal framework and launching key energy initiatives, such as green power plants, public-private partnerships, power purchase agreements, and support for communities most affected by climate change.
The Prime Minister noted that Vietnam has made encouraging progress despite being a developing country with limited resources. It leads ASEAN in renewable energy supply, is internationally recognized for advancing sustainable green agriculture, especially the 1 million hectare low-emission rice project in the Mekong Delta, and actively participates in global green growth and energy transition initiatives. The Prime Minister restated Vietnam's commitment to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050 and emphasized that Vietnam is ready to participate, accompany, and lead in this process. Vietnam, he added, looks forward to continue strong cooperation and support from the international community on this journey.
Vietnam seeks support in 5 key areas: financial assistance, high-tech sharing, human resource training, institutional development for green and sustainable growth, and green governance.
The Prime Minister called implementing the Paris Agreement a challenging yet meaningful mission, an opportunity to reshape the economy, advance climate action, and strengthen global cooperation.
Prime Minister Phie urged the Posts and Telecommunications Institute of Technology (PTIT) to continue pioneering innovation, digital transformation and scientific research, nurturing talent and building unicorns while visiting the institute on Thursday. The Prime Minister requested that the PTIT take the lead in connecting the state, the school, scientists, businesses and investors in the autonomy and commercialization of products, thinking big, acting bold, and daring to overcome one's limit. In the coming period, the Institute should closely monitor and forecast global and national trends and set clear development goals, tasks, and solutions that create synergy, stressing that the trend of peace, cooperation, and development remains the main ideals of the era. National Assembly Chairman Chen Thanh-Bẫn on Thursday chaired several meetings to discuss office space waste, post-restructuring, and digital transformation in National Assembly's operations. More in the following.
During the morning session, the National Assembly Standing Committee reviewed the government's efforts in thrift practices and waste prevention for 2024. Delays in implementing completed projects and ongoing project bottlenecks continue to waste resources. The committee noted persistent shortcomings in budget management, public investment, and procurement. They urged the government to address the inefficient use of public office buildings and assets. The committee also called for immediate action on derelict land resources.
In the afternoon, the National Assembly chairman praised positive progress in applying AI and digital technology in National Assembly's operations. He emphasized that the establishment of the National Assembly Steering Committee for Digital Transformation and the resolution on developing digital National Assembly will help reduce working time by up to 30% and allow more focus on high-priority tasks. The top legislator urged all units to mobilize resources and continue close coordination to finalize and start implementation for the upcoming 9th National Assembly session.
Coming up next on VTV News. The Ministry of Public Security identifying martyrs through DNA sample collection. And later on, literature and arts continue to contribute to the country's development. Welcome back to VTV News Live. Now, moving on to other important updates. Bien Tre Province on Thursday solemnly celebrated the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South, national reunification, and the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Bien Tre Province. Attending the ceremony were former chairwoman of the National Assembly Nguyễn Trọng Nghĩa, Politburo member, secretary of the Party Central Committee, head of Party Central Committee Commissions for Popularization and Education. At the ceremony, delegates reviewed the heroic revolutionary spirit of Vietnam's great victory and, at the same time, looked back at the achievements and lessons from the country's construction and development. After 50 years of liberation, Bien Tre had advanced strongly and accomplished many important achievements in all fields. Bien Tre is implementing the merger of provinces and communes to open up new development opportunities. Standing Deputy Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc, also the chair of the Special Amnesty Council on Wednesday, presided over a special council meeting to review the dossier and list of special amnesty proposals in 2025 for the 50th anniversary of the Southern Liberation and National Reunification. He emphasized that the amnesty reflects the compassionate and humane tradition of the party and state toward prisoners who have shown genuine remorse and rehabilitation. The Council has conducted a strict, transparent, democratic review process to evaluate the eligible cases. Following the meeting, the list of pardoned inmates will be finalized and submitted to the President for approval. The official amnesty decision will be announced on April the 30th, and those granted release will be freed on May the 1st, in accordance with the state president's directive. Vietnam still has around 200,000 martyrs' remains yet to be found, and around 300,000 unidentified martyrs, posing a profound concern for the party and state leaders, as well as for millions of martyr families across the country. To overcome the challenges, the Ministry of Public Security is implementing DNA sample collection from fallen soldiers' relatives, cross-checking with technologies to confirm the identities and paying tribute to those sacrificed for the nation.
It has been half a century since the day martyr Nguyễn Thanh Sơn fell in battle. His brother Nguyễn Thiện Tình has never stopped searching for his remains and finally found the site. The collection of DNA samples has sparked renewed hope that he may identify his brother's remains out of the 9 discovered sets.
Searching for a martyr's remain is extremely difficult. Thanks to the support of the party and the state's timely decision to support the DNA collection, our family finally has hope.
Nguyễn Thiện Tình is only one of many relatives of over 9,000 martyrs in Hà Nam province whose identities remain unconfirmed. Local authorities have launched an urgent DNA collection campaign with 45 provincial sampling stations.
Many mothers' relatives are aging. We must collect the DNA samples as soon as possible.
We're striving to work urgently and aim to complete these tasks for the matching process by April 30th, 2025.
The National Population Database has helped reach out to martyr families more efficiently. The search and repatriation of martyr remains is a sacred mission, a critical step in the journey of restoring their names and returning them to their families and to the land they died for.
Vietnam's resistance against the U.S. at its peak saw the deployment of nearly 550,000 American troops to the southern Vietnamese battlefield. The consequences were profound not only for the Vietnamese people, but also for American society and the individuals who served. Today, veterans use this anniversary as a moment to reflect, emphasizing efforts to foster bilateral relations.
Returning from Vietnam's battlefields, many U.S. veterans have lived with post-traumatic stress disorder from what they witnessed. Between 1959 and 1975, 58,000 American troops lost their lives in Vietnam, and nearly 1,000 remain unaccounted for. Today, visitors gather at the Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C., tracing the etched names of their fallen comrades.
Most of the names on this wall were young men. And men that I served with there have gone back to visit Vietnam and to visit the areas where we operated and have met people. And I was a young man, I was 18 years old. So soldiers do what they're told to do, even when they don't understand what they're doing or why they're doing it.
Though half a century has passed and memories of the war have dimmed for some, many American veterans have made the journey back to Vietnam. They've devoted themselves to healing the wounds of war, driven by a shared commitment to transcend the past and forge a more hopeful future.
But yet you can overcome the past. And I think that's the critical history lesson that we all have to learn from the past. Once the war is over, it's over. And you move on, and you find ways where people can agree and work together to make a better world, yes, for the people themselves.
Mutual understanding is key to building trust, easing tensions, and preventing misunderstandings.
After the war, people said we need to pay more attention to the history of these and the society of these countries, not just look at them as part of a big geopolitical picture. So I think that was helpful. Sometimes we forget that, but I think that's had a big impact.
As comprehensive strategic partners, the two countries prioritize cultural and people-to-people exchanges, initiatives that help heal war wounds and foster mutual understanding for the future.
More than 300 photographs, documents, and artifacts highlighting Vietnam's victory in the resistant war against the United States are displayed at A Nation Rejoices, a special exhibition at the Ho Chi Minh Museum in Hanoi. The exhibition features three themes: aspiration for peace, Great Spring Victory of 1975, and Vietnam reaching new heights. The showcase retraces the arduous yet glorious journey of Vietnam's long struggle for independence. It aims to reinforce public confidence in the party's leadership as the country steps into a new era of development. The exhibition is open to the public from April the 23rd to August of the 10th. Over the past 50 years since national reunification, Vietnam's literature and arts have significantly contributed to building a sustainable culture in the modern era. Vietnamese artists have shown that literature and the arts are vital spiritual assets and a form of national soft power, supporting sustainable development and global integration.
Over the past 50 years, artists have enriched Vietnamese identity with a growing and diverse community across generations, styles, regions, and ethnic groups.
We value the contributions of artists across all literary and artistic fields.
The đổi mới reform process has sparked a shift in creative thinking, adapting to social changes and global art trends. Hundreds of authors and works have received state honors and prestigious awards. Literature and art play a key role in shaping the Vietnamese people's patriotism, values, and aspirations.
Literature and art involved with life, vividly reflecting new figures, examples, models, emerging from the country's development process.
Amid new challenges, traditional literature and art face difficulties in adapting and maintaining influence, particularly the younger generation, who demand both talent and courage from the artists.
Developing literature and art should reflect the spirit of the country's new development phase and nurture artists as steadfast cultural soldiers. Their works should embody national identity, socialist ideals, and artistic values.
Investing in literature and art is investing in the future of national culture, enabling them to drive cultural revival and national development in the new era.
Coming up next on VTV News, the U.S. toy industry takes a hit from the latest tariff wave. And later on, Kenya investigates international organ trafficking ring. Now, moving on to other news, Kenya's Directorate of Criminal Investigation, DCI, has launched a comprehensive investigation into reports of illegal human organ trafficking by a local clinic following media allegations. The investigation comes a day after Kenyan health authorities ordered the suspension of all kidney transplant operations at Mediheal Group clinics until further notice. Public concern over alleged organ trafficking emerged after a probe conducted by German media outlets. The investigation uncovered a transnational network of organ donors and recipients. The investigation found that organ donors were often young Kenyans seeking financial support, while recipients came from Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Pakistan. Meanwhile, those receiving the transplant reportedly also came from countries like Germany and Israel. India closed its land border crossing with Pakistan at the Tariff checkpoint on Thursday afternoon. This move comes as a response from New Delhi following a deadly attack on April the 22nd that claimed 26 lives in Kashmir. Prior to this, New Delhi has announced a series of diplomatic measures to downgrade relations with Pakistan, including summoning Pakistan's highest-ranking diplomat in India. Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri also announced that India will suspend the Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan, withdraw its defense attachés from Pakistan, and reduce staff numbers at its diplomatic mission in Islamabad from 55 to 30 personnel. In response, Pakistan had denied any involvement in the attack and stated that it will issue a proportionate response. Australia on Thursday announced plans to create a new strategic reserve aimed at stockpiling critical minerals with an initial investment of $763 million. This move comes as countries worldwide work to diversify their supply of rare earth elements and essential metals. As a global mining powerhouse, Australia holds significant strategic minerals such as lithium, nickel, and cobalt reserves. However, the majority of these resources are currently being exported as raw ore for processing at factories in China. Under the new policy, Australia will begin stockpiling these minerals domestically and will limit sales to its designated key partners. The latest wave of tariffs imposed by the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump has shaken up the U.S. market. Although heavily affected, the toy industry has received little attention. With over 75% of toys imported from China, the import tariffs could spike up to 145%, putting pressure on U.S. businesses and consumers.
This toy shop in Washington, D.C. has been operating for almost 40 years. However, the recent tariff policy has the owner worried about the shop's future.
Last week, we received a tariff surcharge of 50% on all the products from one vendor. and we anticipate receiving some in the range of 125 to 145% as well.
In Georgia, U.S., toy store owner Joe Novak rushes to place orders ahead of the tariff hike.
90% of the toys that we bring into the store are going to be manufactured in China. Another 5% are probably other Southeast Asian countries, and we'd like to bring in more, but the rest probably are Europe and America, probably make about 5% of the store.
Small retailers and large manufacturers are struggling, with some even halting imports due to mounting cost pressures.
Things have grinded to a halt. We stopped shipping goods into the U.S. at that tariff rate, and I know that the most toy companies in the U.S. Have done the same thing.
According to industry experts, relocating production to the U.S. is not a realistic short-term solution.
There's no opportunity to mass produce toys here in the U.S. In the short or medium term. The production capabilities that have been built up in China over decades.
The U.S. toy industry generates over $28 billion in annual retail sales and contributes more than $100 billion to the economy through supply chains, employment, and exports.
The Virtual Vietnam Exhibition House is located on the Virtual Expo application, or Virtual Expo 2025. Vietnam Exhibition House is a cultural space with water puppetry, traditional musical instrument performances, outside performances, and traditional costumes. In addition, there are exhibition areas about Vietnam's economic and foreign achievements. Vietnam Exhibition House thoroughly applies modern technology, large screens, combining modern technology such as mapping, virtual reality, hologram 3D light projection technology that brings wonderful experience to visitors. Vietnam will have a series of activities such as performing folk arts, exhibitions, and promoting tourism and economic achievements during the 6 months of Expo 2025 International Exhibition. Up next, as usual, let's have a look at the weather forecast for Vietnam and other locations in the world. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website or YouTube channel or download mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.